So this woman, Ruby Franke, had more YouTube followers than we do, but most people have never heard of her. She was like a mom blogger, a parent. She had like a parenting YouTube site out in Utah, and she was known for her extremely strict parenting. And it got to the point where people actually started to complain about her. A petition was filed with, I think, thousands of signatures saying she needs to be looked into, this woman. I'll just give you an example of how things started before we get to where they went. This is a compilation of some of her parenting clips from her now defunct YouTube channel in SOT 20.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
I just got a text message from teacher, and she said that did not pack a lunch today. She's just going to need to be hungry.
Okay. So this went from bad to worse. I mean, that wasn't great, but it turned out that she was actually abusing her children, and that she only had her two smallest children in the house. One was, I think, 9 and one was 12. I'll go back and check those numbers, but I'm pretty sure those are the numbers. And the boy, the son, got out of the house. Where she was living with a woman said to be her counselor, the counselor for her and her estranged husband who was not living in the home. And the boy got out of the house, went over to the neighbors, pressed the doorbell, and then asked for the man to call 911. Here's that soundbite from the man's 911 call, SOT 22.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
It's personal business.
Have a seat. I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty. He has duct tape around each ankle, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... Can you... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Oh my God, it's awful, Mark. And now this mother, Ruby Franke, and the woman / counselor with whom she was living with those children, they've both been sentenced to 30 years in prison for child abuse. So what do you make of it?
I'm totally fine with that. I'm usually the one who says, really, that much time? In a case like this, just pay attention to the detail, what they did to these kids. They gave the kids a life sentence. I will never forget the body cam footage that I had to watch of when the police finally come into the house and the child that was sitting in a room that had nothing in it, child sitting in the center of the room, and the police were like, okay, we're here now. Now this child was hungry, deprived, and still wouldn't get up, was sitting erect in the center of the room, doing what she had been trained and tortured to do for quite some time. As far as I'm concerned, 30 years is a very fair sentence, and these kids, unfortunately, they have a life sentence.
That's right. The woman whose house it was where they were living is named Jody Hildebrandt, age 54 at the time of arrest. And I don't know what's wrong with this person, but according to the estranged husband of Ruby Franke, she saw ghosts. She talked about weird messages she was getting from beyond. Ruby Franke claimed that, she'd been kind of brainwashed by this woman. And the husband, who's an engineer, and he was a professor, college professor, I think, of engineering out at Brigham Young, was like, look, I'm a serious, reasonable man, but I'm telling you, weird things were happening in that house with the supernatural he was suggesting. So this woman had a way of taking people in, and she was the one who was there when the cops who had received that 911 call showed up. And because of the exigent circumstances, they were able to go right in and search that house immediately. And she freaked out on them, like, why? I don't know if we have that one, Deb, but when she was like, do we have it? Or she's like, well, how can you come in? Where's your warrant? In any event, they went right in and they found the minor child who was still in there. It's a girl, but they thought it was a boy because she was just unrecognizable. Here we have a bit of that. Let's listen.
Horrible.
Come on, buddy. I'm a police officer. Hey, you okay? Is this just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name?
We at first thought it might have been a little boy sitting there cross-legged, just staring up at us.
She ate the whole thing, so they ordered another one. She ate half of a large pizza as well, along with a shake.
And what does that tell you about how hungry she was?
Food deprived, hungry, just like R was at the time.
More than 4 hours after police make entry into Jody's home, he finally agrees to leave the closet.
It's amazing that they have the actual videotape. I mean, and good for the cops for holding on to that and making sure those moments were documented. But these children were emaciated, Arthur. The boy who had been, had escaped and gone over the neighbors had clear marks of being shackled around his legs. He had duct tape around his legs. Underneath the duct tape was saran wrap, but he had visible wounds all over his body. And it's amazing to me that this boy, this is a viewer warning, just FYI, we are showing pictures of the results of abuse, which I understand can be jarring and upsetting to some. But it's important to see what was happening, because what happened over and over, oh, that's awful. That's just awful. What happened over and over, Arthur, was people tried to sound the alarm on this family, and nothing was done. Nothing was done.
That was the question I was going to have. Like, I know I don't have a typical lifestyle. There's a lot of people around my world, but even the neighbor on the 911 call says I don't forget exactly what he said. There's some weird things going on there, or some, he alluded to the fact that there was some weird stuff going on at the house. Look, I know in New York, if you call, it's not that hard. As unfunctional, dysfunctional as the city of New York is, you start calling about kids being abused, the children's services are at your house pretty quickly, because they didn't do it once about a decade ago in a case, and the girl died, the little child died. So they've really upped their game in terms of doing wellness visits to the house. And why that wasn't done earlier or sooner. And there's teachers, there's providers that they're obligated to call and ask for help. The teacher who says, your kid didn't come to school. Oh, well, she's going to be hungry, but, she'll learn a lesson now. I don't know. I mean, you would like to think that someone along the world of all these kids would have sounded the alarm. And where's Kevin, the husband, and all of this? Doesn't he want to see his kids? Doesn't he miss his kids?
Where's Kevin? We'll talk about Kevin in 1 second. But before I get to that, I want to stay on the fact that nobody was following up on, obvious red flags all over this household, Mark. There are 4 older children who were not living in this home, again, where Ruby Franke, the mother, I use that term generously, and her counselor / friend, Jessie Hildebrandt, sorry, not Jessie, Jessie's the niece, Jody Hildebrandt, were living. And one of the older siblings in the Franke family called Protective Services and asked for a welfare check on her younger siblings in 2022. The father, Kevin, had moved out because the counselor, Jody, told him to get out to allegedly work on a porn addiction, which now he says he didn't have. And what happened? Nothing. Here's SOT 21.
Dispatch. Hi, my name is Sherry Franke. My 4 younger siblings are living in Springville, and my neighbors have been telling me that they have been left home alone for about 4 or 5 days, and so I was curious if someone could go check on them. I know CPS has come a couple times because of this already, but they never find a problem, but it keeps happening, so I'm going to have an officer give you a call back.
So to fill in the blanks here, this daughter, after her mother was arrested, said justice is now being served. We've been trying to tell police and CPS for years about this. So glad they finally decided to step up. Kids are safe, but there's a long road ahead. Police reports appear to back her up. This is from ABC's reporting in 2020. Police told 2020 they were not able to get a warrant to search the home. An unnamed neighbor claimed that multiple adults in the community had been trying to get the Utah Division of Child and Family Services involved for over a year, having noticed Franke's long absences. I'm really angry, says one, because I spoke up. If people knew the amount of tears and time spent talking with law enforcement and CPS over the last year, I want people to understand that, and I want these kids to know that, because I think they thought they were abandoned. The Springville Police Department told NBC that officers did show up at Franke's home to investigate, but their attempts by DCSF to contact the children proved unsuccessful because the kids wouldn't come to the door. What, Mark? What?
Oh, Megyn. So I would pray that somebody from that jurisdiction conducts an in-depth analysis to how they failed these children. Right? If you can explain it away, all right, well, the cops showed up and then, okay, they couldn't just go in because of X, Y, and Z, then we'll understand it. But someone needs to be held accountable. I bet there was something more that could have been done. And if something more was done, we're talking about years of torture that could have been avoided.
I don't understand a scenario, Arthur, in which the cops are getting called by multiple community members. DCFS is getting called by multiple community members. There's something wrong. There's abuse happening in the house, we suspect. Please go check on them. A family member, an older sibling calls, and they show up and the kids won't come to the door. And so they say, oh, nothing to see here. I mean, we now know the kids can't come to the door because they're being kept like animals in makeshift prisons, little closets, the kid with shackles on his feet. That's why it's not immediately foreseeable. It's not what comes to your mind immediately, but it is foreseeable in the field of I'm investigating abuse. How do you walk away just because you can't see the kids? With cyber attacks on the rise, protecting your data security is more important than ever. So why is Congress considering a bill that could put your credit card data at greater risk of being hacked and exposed to foreign networks? Our advertiser, the Electronic Payments Coalition, says the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill shifts billions in consumer spending to less secure payment networks, all so that corporate megastores can make bigger profits. Find out more about the issue at electronicpaymentscoalition.org and decide for yourself if you would like to tell your senators to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.